Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for telling my sister her mom is the villain of her life and not her dad? I, 17 female, am frustrated and need a place to vent but also get some advice and will most likely be post this in other places to a census. I have a half-sister, 17 female, through my dad, 42 male. He was married to my sister's mom who cheated on him, so he cheated back, and refused to do anything for my sister or her mother unless a judge told him to or until there was a DNA test. He moved out and didn't pay cent in medical expenses for my sister's mom, while he bought and put together my nursery and went to almost every doctor's appointment and parenting class with my mom. There were some complications when my mom gave birth to me, so he stayed at the hospital where I was at longer and missed my sister's birth. He saw her the next day but only to make sure the DNA test was getting done, and when it came back that my sister was his, he reimbursed her mom for half the things she spent for my sister and started paying child support that same day. They still got a divorce and my sister's mom always resented that he cheated back and had a good relationship with my mom. I know this because I remember all three adults fighting over how all my mom had to do was ask and my dad would give her more money for me, while my sister's mom had to provide proof of need and or take my dad to court. He trusted my mom more than her, but she always provided him proof without asking. My sister's mom kept saying our dad didn't love her as much because he paid for me, my mom and him to go to Disney World over the summer, and left her behind. Not true. While all three of us did go to Disney World, my mom paid for herself and my parents split the bill for me. My sister was welcome to come and my dad would pay for her expenses, but her mom would have to foot the bill for herself if she wanted to come. Admittedly, my dad spent more time with me, but that was because my mom made me accessible to him. My sister's mom had to be taken to court 3 times because she wasn't following the custody agreement. There are other examples, but I think I've made my point. The problem now is that, when we go to college, my dad is going to give me money each semester for tuition and anything else I need, while my sister will have to give him her information and he'll just pay for things directly. His reasoning is that, he doesn't trust that her mom won't either take the money from her account or guilt her into using it for her mother's needs instead of her education. She's done it before. My sister is upset and accused our dad of favoritism, citing everything he did with me, that he didn't do with her. I didn't think that it was very accurate and told her that he's paying for both of us equally and that if there was anyone to blame for the lack of our father's presence in her life, it was her own mom for always making things difficult. My sister cried and cussed at me, and her mom is bad-mouthing me on social media. My mom thinks that I shouldn't have said anything no matter how true it is, so am I the a-hole? ETA, okay, so I keep seeing the same thing, so I want to be very clear on some things. 1. We are getting an equal amount of money for college. He sat us both down at the same time and told us such. 2. Again, I was able to spend more time with our dad because my mom was willing to make compromises. My sister's mom wasn't and had to be taken to court 3 times just to get her to follow the custody agreement. My dad always invited my sister to trips with us, me and him, and or his side of the family, but her mother refused to let her go out of state without her. Her mom expected to be invited and have our dad pay for all of her, again my sister's mom, expenses. Like at Disney World. 3. Unless you agree that a man whose wife cheated on him should pay for all of her medical expenses before he knows that he's the father, don't say my dad is a bad person for not doing it. 4. My dad got 2 women pregnant around the same time. I know he's not perfect, but he's not a deadbeat either, and he is not taking out his issues with my sister's mom on her. Edit 2. Again, didn't think that this needed to be said, but the reason I know what I know about my dad's relationship with my sister's mom is because her mom is the one who brought it up in the past. Because of scheduling, my mom would drop me off with my dad and then we would go together to get my sister. Her mom never brought my sister to our dad and she would verbally fight him in front of us. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole, sorry, but you don't get to tell your sister how to feel about the situation. You got the lucky end of the situation. That's not your fault, it's just what happened. But she didn't. And I can see why she's upset with your dad. He effectively punished her for the actions of her mom. That may not have been his intention, but it's what happened. She literally had to see what life could have been like if her parents got along because that's what happened for you. It doesn't really matter who's at fault here. It sounds like all 3 adults in this situation could have handled it better, particularly her parents. She got the short straw and she's allowed to feel however she wants to feel about her. Also, if you think that the way she has been treated by her dad is entirely her mom's fault, you are deluding yourself. Your mom is right. She's allowed to be upset, and even if you don't agree, it's best to let her feel her feelings rather than trying to tell her she's wrong. I'm not saying my dad is a perfect man. He got 2 women pregnant at the same time, but my sister is trying to make it seem like he's the one who's entirely at fault, and is completely overlooking the fact that her own mother stole from her. That her dad had to take her mom to court multiple times to make sure she upheld visitation. What else could my dad have done? He could have not cheated in the first place. Neither could his ex-wife. You know, since she's the one who did it first. You realize that your father is indeed the villain to her here, right? He was married, and because his wife cheated, he took that as a green light to also cheat. Then he had a baby with his affair partner and choose that baby over his other child. He is absolutely playing favorites and making your sister's life more difficult. But you're allowed to not see him in that light because you're actually being taken care of. She is also allowed to see him as the villain because he is to her. You don't get to tell her she is wrong. You're the a-hole. Until that DNA test said so, my dad had no reason to believe that she was his. My sister's mom was the one who made it difficult because she's the one who kept restricting access. He's also taking care of her too. We have an equal amount of money that will be given to us for college. Added to add, also, fine, I won't tell her how to feel about someone, but she can't act like her mom is innocent. She literally stole from her and told her that her dad didn't care about her when that wasn't true. He wouldn't have taken her mom to court if he didn't care. You're the a-hole. Don't internalize your parents' drama. You don't know the full story, and even if there's a kernel of truth, that doesn't give you a right to throw it at your sister. Both of you didn't have a choice being born. Therapy for everyone is probably necessary. So I should let her badmouth our dad when I know he tried? Her mom's the one who kept making it difficult for our dad to see her, and stole the money our dad gave her from her account. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my former sister in my wedding? I, 50s female, used to be very close with Greta, 50s female. She was a part of my life for 23 years and said we were sisters. My family supported her in a significant manner, emotionally, sometimes sending a little money, and finding her a place to live when she moved away. I used to visit her twice a year and always paid for the groceries or paid for dinner, or pitched in for the light bill since I would stay for no less than 10 days and I wouldn't want to be a burden. Greta began to lag in her messages, but she always replied. I spent a month crafting some decor that she wanted for her birthday, sewing in small accents. The package cost me $150 in shipping alone. She never said she received it, so I had to call her. She said she got it, but was too busy to let me know, and that she gave her cat the small rose-shaped candles I bought for her because the cat liked them and were now in the cat litter box. I was livid. She would get mad at me if I didn't return all her calls, so I didn't understand why her change in attitude. Eventually, all I got from her were email forwards about family, and I could read conversations, down the trail, with her blood cousins, and how she always kept them in mind. Also, she sent me a questionnaire and her answers about who is your family? Never mentioned any of us. The last time she ever talked to me via email was when I instant messaged her to announce my pregnancy. She said I'm so happy and logged off. I never hear from her after that. I tried to get in touch but she never replied. Greta showed up 12 years ago. She dropped by unannounced, so I wasn't amused. We had spent 10 years apart and she was acting like nothing happened. I asked her why she stayed away, and her answer was that she had the flu. I said it had been close to 10 years and she stayed quiet. I wasn't very welcoming, but I wasn't aggressive or nasty. She left on her own accord and left me with the feeling that she was trying to ask for a favor or something. I'm about to get married. We want something very simple and nice, but we'll definitely keep it private, meaning that only people living with us will attend. I don't know who told her about my wedding, but she contacted me. It was so awkward because after 20-odd years, she brought up the wedding and said she wanted to attend. I said no. She sent me an angry text about how selfish I'm acting. In all these years, she never had contact with anyone except for her flash visit. My parents don't want her back in their lives either, because the last time she was nice to my mom, she asked for $300, and my mom said no and never heard back from her until she reappeared. I think she may be going through a hard time. She's a widow now. I feel like I could have handled things better and not said such a cutting no. Maybe I should have gradually faded without making her feel so triggered. I intend to enjoy my finally stable life and am focused on my family, but I think I came across as running my happiness on her face. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Decade of no contact and then being treated like crap in an unequal relationship where she doesn't even have the decency to explain why she dropped off the face of the earth, equals don't bother letting her back in. She does not deserve you and probably wants to use you again. I agree. OP has no obligation to re-include her in her life after disappearing for so many years just because she is family. And you know what? I think she needs something from OP, and that's why she's trying to come back into their life. This really resonates. Not the a-hole, she's delusional to think she can just show up after years and have everything be sunshine and roses. And remember that she'll just put those roses in the kitty litter. Honestly, that was so hurtful. I felt disposable. Not the a-hole, how exactly does one gently fade out of a relationship with someone who did not say a damn word to you for 10 years? Whatever your relationship was when it was good, it hasn't been that way in a very long time and you don't owe her an explanation. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my ex's daughter that I have my own family?" This sounds really messed up, but please hear me out. I've, 34 female, lived with my ex-boyfriend, 36 male, for about 3 years. We weren't dating when I moved in, we started out as roommates, and after about a year, we started dating. He had a daughter from a previous relationship who would visit even before we started dating, who was 13 at the time. She is now 16. She'd be over to visit quite often and we included her when we could when she was here. We developed a pretty good relationship, but her mom was still heavily involved in her life and I never saw myself as a stepmom to her. We broke up at the beginning of December 2019, we just aren't a good fit for each other amongst other things. We decided to keep the rental agreement as it worked for both of us, and due to restrictions in 2020. I started seeing my current fiancé, 34 male, in April of last year, and have now begun the steps of moving in with him as I am expecting in the next 4 months. Ex's daughter still visits, and often asks to hang out or to come to the new apartment when I move out officially. I've tried to be as accommodating as possible, and explained that her father and I are no longer together, and that we probably won't be seeing each other often, if even at all. Things came to a head last week when she tried to hand off a box of her items that she wanted me to take to the new apartment so she has some things of her own when she came to spend the night. We never agreed on this. She also asked if she could help name her new sister when she finally arrived, and I was extremely uncomfortable after the whole thing. I decided to have a talk with her and my ex, and told them that this had to stop. She asked why she couldn't be included, and I told her that I wasn't her mom and that I was starting a family of my own and that she already had a mom to look forward to. Ex said that I took on a motherly title in her life for 2 years, and that I was wrong to try and shut her out after the breakup. She left after the conversation, and has reached out after the fact to ask if there's any way she can still be in my life. I've been ignoring the messages and focusing on moving the last of my things to the new place. Ex told me I'm a cold witch, and that he won't forgive me for hurting her like this. I feel like an a-hole for cutting her out, but I really want to move on with my life. Am I the a-hole here? Extra info, I'm moving nearly across state. I'm uncomfortable with her considering herself my child and my responsibility when she has 2 parents who are heavily involved in her life. Keeping her involved in my life affects my fiancé as well, who has no interest in her or having any sort of relationship with her. I treated her as I would a friend's child. If she was here, I treated her well and kindly, but I was never mom. I don't hate her, she's not a bad kid, I just have my own stuff going on and would prefer to distance myself as my ex plans on seeing others in the future, and I'm sure me hanging around would be uncomfortable for any new partner he has. Final edit for now, I spoke to ex's daughter this morning over the phone. I explained that people come and go and that this is just one of those situations. I wished her well and told her she's free to call/text every once in a while, and she was still unhappy. My fiancé told me to leave it and move on, which I'm beginning to think is best. Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here? You need those boundaries in place, and she was jumping on the big sister bandwagon without even realizing it wasn't there. She was inputting herself in places she wasn't asked, but I feel like it was more on miscommunication than actually trying to force her way in. Just because you never saw yourself as a stepmom, she may have, and no one took the time to properly explain the new dynamics to her, as she genuinely and innocently could have thought that this new baby would have been her new little sister and you and your husband her extended family of sorts. However, that type of convo wouldn't just be on you to have had with her, but your ex as well. But he does have a point how you were a mother figure in her life for 2 years that she obviously cared deeply about. She probably feels abandoned, and if a convo like that were to happen, it would be a lot better coming from you than him. Even though you want to focus on moving out, I do have to ask, are you competently cutting her out just like that, leaving things how you did? It is obviously still your choice, whichever you chose, but ignoring her when it's obvious she wants to talk and most likely get some closure, is an a-hole move in my opinion. You may want to move on, but I would recommend helping her move on too, But talking things out as that was a bombshell to drop and then just leave with. Her question seems like a plea for both explanation and for any hope. If there is no hope for her being in your new life, explain that, and yes, her feelings will still get hurt, but not as badly as they probably would be getting ignored, and technically abandoned by someone she really cares about. Talking things out is better than leaving it just like that 100%. And you don't have to do it right now, but even just sending a quick text about you two talking later still will mean something and be better than nothing. Not the a-hole. Your ex is the a-hole here for not shutting this down from the beginning. You've explained and explained, but this girl just wasn't getting it. The fact she's still texting you means she still doesn't get it. I feel very sad for her and I think you do as well, but she is not your responsibility. Her parents need to sit her down and explain. You were never her mother or stepmother. You have your own life with your own fiancé, with your own child beginning now. At one point you have to let go of anything to do with your ex and his life. It's a low blow of him saying he'll never forgive you. Glad he's out of your life. I can understand where you are coming from. It's a shame you couldn't be kinder. Let me ask you, would you be okay with someone treating your unborn child, down the road, the way you treated her? Soft, you're the a-hole. I think you should have talked to your ex and made it clear that it wasn't going to happen and given him a choice, to steer her away from you, or then you would sit her down and tell her. It's a shame you couldn't be kinder. Yeah, I feel really bad for the girl. Not OP's fault, but still kinda cold? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend that she's getting what she deserves? Back in college, my friend Aubrey introduced our friend group to her boyfriend at the time, Paul. Paul seemed like a nice enough guy, but one of our friends, Gina, took an interest in him. A few months later, it gets revealed that she was meeting up with Paul. Aubrey was heartbroken, but after a few months all was forgiven. Another girl who wasn't as close to the group but we all knew, had the same issue with Gina. Gina had taken an interest in her boyfriend and had ended up fooling around with this guy. After this, it's a well-known fact not to introduce Gina to your SO. Gina had no idea about this, until recently one of our friends started seeing someone new. We all got introduced to him and were talking about him at a meetup. Gina asked when she'd get to meet him, but we all kind of got quiet and changed the subject. Later on that night, Gina and I were talking and asked what the whole thing was about. I told her that our friends don't feel cool with letting her meet their boyfriends since she has a history of sneaking around with other people's boyfriends. I told her she kind of deserved it because given her track record. I don't really care either way, and it's none of my business what she does. Personally, I couldn't care less about it. But she said it's awful of us to hold her college days against her, and that she's changed and doesn't want to be seen that way anymore. Am I the a-hole for telling her it's deserved? Not the a-hole. Actions have consequences, and Gina can't blame the others for being careful around her. Especially when there's no indication she's offered meaningful apologies to anyone. She says that because she's different now, her slate should be wiped clean. But that's not how that works. It's not for her to decide when the slate has been wiped. Not sure why or how she still has these friends. She doesn't sound very sorry, being that she seems to feel entitled to everyone else having a lobotomy. Not the a-hole. Everyone sucks here. Burn the witch. The poor innocent boyfriends couldn't possibly have been expected to keep their peckers in their pants out of loyalty to their girlfriends, now could they? Burn the witch. Thank you. I was thinking the same thing. While I don't condone Gina's actions, seriously, keeping their boyfriends away from her? Like all men are just these innocent little lambs who have to be protected from this evil seductress, and they're not just as complicit in these decisions? I was going to originally go with an NTA verdict, but actually reading I'm leaning more towards everyone sucks here, but it's a soft everyone sucks here. Because your friend Gina has such an awful reputation, so why is she still in the friend group? Why has everyone in the group not dropped her or had to talk to her about her actions? Has she even apologized for everything? Not the a-hole. What else did she expect? Trust is a rough bridge to burn in any relationship, because it's way harder to rebuild. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day, everyone.